At the family dinner, my daughter-in-law summoned security. "Remove this intruder from the table," she demanded, unaware I owned the company she worked for. The next day, I reassigned her to kitchen duty. Thanks for joining my story. Follow it to the end and share the city you're reading from so I can see its reach. I should have sensed trouble the moment I pressed the doorbell. Normally, my son Ethan would welcome me with the warm grin I cherished from his childhood. Instead, Lauren answered, her manicured nails clutching the door like she ruled the house, which I suppose she thought she did. "Sherry, you made it," she said, her tone laced with that special disdain she saved for me, making me feel like an outsider in my son's home. I gripped the gift bag tighter. Inside was a hand-knitted sweater for my grandson Liam, crafted over weeks. "Hi, Lauren, I brought something for Liam's birthday." She didn't step aside, her eyes scanning my simple navy dress, my best, though clearly not up to her standards. "Ethan's still getting ready. The other guests are here," she said. "Other guests?" I hadn't expected a crowd. Ethan had called last week, his voice tight as it always was around Lauren, inviting me to a quiet family dinner for Liam's 5th birthday. When I stepped inside, the contrast hit hard. The living room buzzed with polished couples, their jewelry glinting under the chandelier's glow. Their hushed, self-important chatter filled the space. I recognized some from the local paper's society pages. "Grandma Ellen." Liam's voice pierced the adult murmur like a ray of light. He rushed toward me, arms wide, and for a moment, everything felt right. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," I whispered, hugging him close. He smelled of cake and innocence. "I made you something special." But before I could hand him the gift, Lauren's hand landed on his shoulder, steering him away. "Liam, remember our talk? Grandma needs to wash up first. Go play with your cousins." The message was clear. I wasn't fit to touch her son. Dinner was worse. The dining table stretched endlessly, adorned with unfamiliar fine china, likely wedding gifts from Lauren's family. I was placed at the far end, wedged between an empty chair and Ethan's old college buddy, who bragged nonstop about his latest business deal. Ethan caught my eye once during the appetizers, offering a faint smile. But when Lauren whispered in his ear, he looked away. My heart sank deeper. "So, Ellen," Lauren's voice cut through the main course, halting conversations. "Ethan says you're still at that little cleaning company." Her emphasis on little dripped with contempt. Heads turned, their gazes a mix of pity and curiosity. My cheeks burned. "I own a business, yes," I said softly, avoiding a scene. Lauren's laugh was sharp, like ice in a glass. How charming. A business. She turned to the woman beside her. "Ellen runs an office cleaning service. Very modest work." The woman nodded politely, but her slight shift away from me was unmistakable. A familiar recoil from those who deem you beneath them. I tried to eat, but each bite tasted like dust. The dinner conversation swirled around me, talk of summer homes in Cape Cod, elite private schools, and stock market wins. I had nothing to add, or at least nothing they'd care to hear from someone like me. It was during dessert that everything unraveled. Liam slipped away from the kids' table and clambered onto my lap, chocolate frosting smudged on his fingers. "Grandma Ellen, tell me the story about the princess who saved herself," he begged. It was our ritual. A tale I'd spun years ago about a princess who relied on her wits and strength, not a savior. But before I could start, Lauren loomed over us, her face red with fury. "Liam, get down now," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice through the room. "You'll ruin your clothes." "But Mom, I want Grandma's story," he protested. "Now," she insisted, yanking him off my lap with enough force to make him whimper. Then she turned on me, her eyes blazing. "It's time for you to go." The dining room waits silent. Even the man droning on about his latest acquisition froze mid-sentence. 20 pairs of eyes drilled into me, witnessing my shame. "Lauren, please," I whispered. "It's Liam's birthday." "Security," she called out, though no guards were present. "Please escort this woman out. She's disrupting our family dinner." Ethan stood slowly, his face ashen. "Lauren, that's my mother." "Your mother," she spat, each word laced with venom, "doesn't belong at a table with respectable people. Look at her, Ethan. She's embarrassing you, embarrassing us, embarrassing our son." I don't recall standing or walking to the door. I only felt my heartbeat pounding in my ears and the weight of 20 stairs trailing me. At the threshold, I glanced back, hoping Ethan would meet my gaze, say something, do something. He stared at his plate. The cool night air stung my face as I stepped outside. My hands trembled so badly I could barely fish my car keys from my purse. Behind me, the front door shut with a final click. In my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. 68 years old, silver hair mussed from Liam's eager hug, my best dress suddenly feeling like tattered cloth. I looked like what Lauren had called me, a poor old woman out of place. But Lauren didn't know, none of them did, that come morning, I'd walk into the sleek headquarters of Horizon Innovations, ride the elevator to the top floor, and settle behind the mahogany desk in the corner office. The same company where Lauren worked as a marketing manager, believing her sharp tongue and calculated cruelty were her ticket to the top. She had no idea the woman she'd humiliated was the founder and CEO who signed her paychecks. Driving home through silent streets, my hands steadied on the wheel. Lauren wanted to teach me my place. Tomorrow, I'd show her hers. I arrived at Horizon Innovations at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours earlier than usual. The building stood quiet in the dawn, its glass facade mirroring the pale sky. I'd built this company from scratch 35 years ago, when people scoffed at a woman launching a tech firm. Now it employed over 2,000 people across 3 states. The security guard, Javier, looked surprised. "Morning, Mrs. Carter. You're here early." "Couldn't sleep," I admitted, which was true. I'd spent the night replaying every cruel word, every pitying glance from dinner. My office spanned the northeast corner of the 42nd floor, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city. But today, I ignored the view and went straight to my computer, pulling up the employee database. Lauren Mitchell Carter, marketing manager, digital campaigns division, hired 18 months ago. Her employee photo showed the same smug smile she'd worn when she called me a poor old woman. Her file noted her dynamic personality and innovative client engagement, with a salary most earned in 2 years. I dug deeper: performance reviews, project assignments, colleague feedback. What I found turned my stomach. 3 formal complaints had been lodged against Lauren in the past year, all from older employees. Susan Lee, 61, from accounting, reported that Lauren had publicly shamed her during a budget meeting, calling her methods obsolete and suggesting she step aside for someone who gets modern business. The complaint was dismissed after Lauren claimed she was pushing for efficiency. Michael Harris, 58, from IT support, stated that Lauren demanded he work overtime on her personal projects while mocking his sluggish pace and inability to match younger talent. Again, her supervisor vouched for her high standards, and the complaint was dropped. The third came from Carla Gomez, 63, a custodial supervisor. Lauren had reported to HR that Carla was unprofessional and couldn't follow basic instructions after Carla didn't instantly rearrange a meeting room cleaning for Lauren's last-minute schedule change. Carla was reassigned to the night shift. I leaned back in my chair, a cold fury settling in my chest. This wasn't just about her treatment of me. It was a pattern. Lauren targeted older employees, using her position to belittle them and dodging consequences due to the company's reluctance to address workplace conflicts. My phone rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. "Mom," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "I'm sorry about last night." Lauren was stressed about the dinner. She didn't mean it. I closed my eyes. Even now, he was defending her. "She called security to have me removed from my grandson's birthday, Ethan." "There was no security." "Mom, she was just emotional. She humiliated you in front of 20 people." A long pause. "I know, I should have spoken up. I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "But you know how she gets with these events. Everything has to be perfect." Perfect. As if my presence ruined their flawless world. "Maybe next time, if you could dress up a bit more," he added. "You know how much appearances matter to Lauren's friends." I hung up and sat in silence. My son, once so kind he'd save injured birds and share his lunch money, was asking me to change to appease his wife's cruelty. By 8 o'clock, the office hummed with activity. Through my window, I watched employees stream in, heading to their floors, starting their days. Somewhere among them was Lauren, likely griping to colleagues about her difficult mother-in-law, who didn't know her place. I buzzed my assistant, Diane, who'd been with me for 15 years, rising from secretary to executive assistant. At 62, she was exactly the kind of employee Lauren seemed to target. Diane, pull some personnel files, discreetly. Of course, which ones? Start with the digital campaigns division. I want everything. Performance reviews, project reports, internal communications. And Diane, focus on any records involving older staff. She paused, sensing something brewing. Should I ask what's going on? Not yet. But I suspect we're about to make some changes. An hour later, Diane returned with files that confirmed my fears. Lauren's division had the highest turnover rate in the company, particularly among employees over 50. Exit interviews cited ageist attitudes and a toxic work environment. Yet, these reports never reached my desk. Among the files were Lauren's emails, printed per company policy. One exchange with a colleague made my hands tremble. Can you believe they're making me work with Carla on the Carter project? The woman can barely use a smartphone. Why do we keep these relics around? They're just hogging space from people who get the modern workplace. The Carter project, a campaign for a new client that Lauren had taken credit for, earning a hefty bonus. Carla Gomez, the 63-year-old custodial supervisor now working nights, had pitched the initial concept in a brainstorming session that included support staff. I picked up my phone and dialed extension 4247, Human Resources. Jennifer speaking. Jennifer, this is Ellen Carter. I need you in my office now. Bring the organizational chart for the digital campaigns division. 20 minutes later, Jennifer sat across her desk, her face ashen as I detailed my findings. Mrs. Carter, I had no idea the issue was this widespread. Some of these complaints should have reached you immediately. They should have, I agreed, but they didn't, which signals deeper problems. For now, I want to focus on Lauren Mitchell Carter. Jennifer nodded, uneasy. What do you want to do? I leaned forward, my resolve hardening. Transfer her today to food services, dishwashing. Jennifer's eyes widened. Mrs. Carter, that's a drastic demotion. She'll file a complaint. Tell her it's part of a new initiative for managers to understand all operations. Say it's temporary, pending her division's restructuring. If she refuses, I said, my smile cold, she can seek employment elsewhere. I'm sure her dynamic personality will be in demand. After Jennifer left, I stood at my window, gazing at the city 42 floors below. People scurried like ants, unaware of the forces shaping their lives. Tomorrow, Lauren would report to the basement cafeteria, don a hairnet, and wash dishes beside those she'd dismissed as relics. She'd feel what it was like to be devalued, her worth questioned. And she'd do it unaware that the woman she'd humiliated at dinner held her fate. I called the cafeteria manager to prepare for her arrival. The basement of Horizon Innovations buzzed with the hum of industrial dishwashers and food prep. Steam rose from massive sinks where dishes were scrubbed before loading into washers. It was honest, invisible work that kept the company running. Wearing a borrowed maintenance uniform, my silver hair tucked under a baseball cap, I blended in as a 68-year-old cleaner, clipboard in hand. Lauren had been here 3 days. Through the kitchen window, I watched her wrestle with the industrial spray nozzle. Her manicure ruined, her face twisted with barely contained fury. Her coworkers steered clear. This is absurd, she muttered to Sophia, the woman beside her. I have a master's in marketing. I managed a 7-figure campaign portfolio. Now I'm washing dishes like some what? Sophia, about 55, with hands worn from years of labor, cut in sharply. You think this work makes us less than you? Lauren flushed. That's not what I meant. I'm just overqualified for this. We're all qualified for something, honey, said Carla Gomez, chopping vegetables nearby. I recognized her from the files, the custodial supervisor Lauren had pushed to the night shift. There's dignity in honest work. Lauren rolled her eyes when Carla turned away. Easy for her to say. She's probably done this her whole life. My jaw tightened, even here. Scrubbing dishes, Lauren couldn't stop looking down on others. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Mom, Lauren's struggling at work. Some restructuring thing. She's stressed. Maybe dinner this weekend, just us three? I replied, I'll think about it. But I already knew my answer. Watching Lauren these past 3 days revealed her cruelty wasn't limited to family dinners. It was her core. On the 4th day, I got closer. Entering the kitchen during the lunch rush's chaos, I approached the dish pit where Lauren worked, looking defeated, her blonde hair limp under the hairnet, dark circles under her eyes. Excuse me, I said, roughening my voice with a slight accent. I need to clean the floor around your station. Lauren barely glanced at me. Whatever, don't get in my way. I mopped near her, overhearing her gripe to Lucas, a young coworker trying to help her adjust. I don't get why they're doing this to me, she said, scraping a plate with force. It's probably that old hag in HR. She's always had it out for me. Lucas shook his head. Jennifer's fair. Maybe it's really temporary like they said. Temporary my ass, Lauren snapped. This is punishment. I just don't know for what. She waved a soapy hand. Look at this place. Look at these people. I don't belong here. Hey, Lucas said softly. These people work hard. They're good people. Lauren's laugh was bitter. Good people? Lucas, wake up. These are the ones who couldn't make it anywhere else. They're here because they lack the skills or brains for better. I froze, gripping the mop handle. The kitchen's chaos continued, but I stood in a silent bubble, absorbing her words. That woman over there, Lauren went on, nodding toward Carla, probably never finished high school. And that one with the accent earlier? Probably undocumented. They should be grateful for any job. Lucas shifted uncomfortably. Lauren, that's not true. Lauren's voice grew louder. Look, it sounds harsh, but some people are born to lead and others are meant to follow. Some create value, others are just maintenance. Maintenance, as if the people keeping the company running, enabling employees like her former self to focus on their important work, were somehow lesser. I resumed mopping, moving deliberately around the kitchen, listening as Lauren critiqued her coworkers. She mocked Sophia's accent, called Lucas naive for defending older staff, and sneered at Carla's appearance. The worst part, she said, mincing a stack of plates, is my mother-in-law probably loves this. She's probably sitting in her sad little apartment, laughing at how her successful daughter-in-law got taken down a notch. My blood chilled. Even now, facing the consequences of her actions, she was blaming others. Your mother-in-law? Lucas asked. She's this pathetic old woman who thinks the world owes her something just for being old, Lauren said. She showed up to my son's birthday, looking like she was headed to a thrift store. Embarrassed Ethan in front of our friends. I had to ask her to leave. In her version, she was the victim, the wronged party. No mention of calling security or the humiliation she'd inflicted. To Lauren, she was just protecting her family from an embarrassing relative. She sounds tough. Lucas said diplomatically, she's a bitter old woman, jealous of what we've built. Lauren shot back. She spent her life doing manual labor and can't stand that her son married someone with class, with education. She wants to drag us down to her level. Manual labor, like the work she was doing now, like the work her coworkers did daily with dignity. I finished mopping and started to leave, but Lauren's voice stopped me. You know the sickest part? Ethan feels sorry for her. He thinks I should apologize for protecting our family from embarrassment. Can you believe that? Lucas murmured. Maybe you should talk to her. Family matters. Lauren's laugh was icy. Family? Real family doesn't show up looking like they crawled out of a dump. Real family respects boundaries. I reached the service corridor, my hands trembling. I removed the baseball cap, running fingers through my silver hair. 3 days of dishwashing, working beside people she dismissed, and Lauren had learned nothing. If anything, her prejudices had hardened. That evening, Ethan called. Mom, I'm worried about Lauren. This job thing is hitting her hard. She comes home exhausted and angry every day. What does she say about it? I asked, already knowing. She thinks someone at work is targeting her. Maybe discrimination because she's young and successful. He paused. She asked me to call you. She wants to apologize for the other night. I nearly laughed. Lauren's apology wasn't remorse. It was strategy. She needed allies, someone to blame for her predicament, and realized alienating family wasn't wise. Tell her I'm not ready to talk, I said. Mom, please, she's struggling. Ethan, I said gently, has Lauren told you what her new job is? Some cross-training program, learning different parts of the business. Cross-training, not washing dishes, not working beside those she'd belittled for months. Even to her husband. She couldn't admit the truth. I see, I said. I'm sure she's learning a lot. After hanging up, I sat in my quiet apartment, reflecting on the woman I'd observed for 3 days. Tomorrow, I would reveal myself. Tomorrow, Lauren would discover that the pathetic old woman she'd humiliated held her future. But first, I wanted to see her reaction when her assumptions about power and status collapsed. I arrived at Horizon Innovations early Friday morning. My resolve solidified after a sleepless night. Observing Lauren for nearly a week confirmed my fears. The kitchen hadn't taught her empathy, only resentment. Diane looked up as I entered, noting my determined posture. What can I do for you, Mrs. Carter? Arrange a meeting. Lauren Mitchell Carter, my office, 10 o'clock. I paused at my door. And Diane, ensure she uses the main elevator. I want her to walk through the executive floor. At 10 o'clock, Diane's voice came through the intercom. Mrs. Carter, your 10 o'clock is here. Send her in. I turned my chair to face the window, back to the door, as footsteps echoed on the marble floor. Lauren's reflection appeared in the glass, tired, her polished hair in a plain ponytail, her designer outfits swapped for kitchen-appropriate clothes. Excuse me, she said, her voice edged with irritation. I was told someone wanted to see me about my transfer. I don't know why I'm on the executive floor. This is clearly a mistake. I swiveled my chair slowly, letting recognition hit. Her expression shifted, confusion to shock, then horror. Hello, Lauren. Her mouth opened and closed before words formed. You? What are you? How are you here? I walked through my private entrance as I do every morning. I gestured to the chair across my desk. Sit. We have much to discuss. She stayed standing, emotions flickering like a slot machine. Disbelief, anger, fear, calculation. This is a joke. You can't be the CEO of Horizon Innovations. I am. Have been for 35 years. Lauren sank into the chair, legs giving out. But at dinner, you said you worked for a cleaning company. I said I owned a business. You assumed it was cleaning. I leaned back, studying her. People see what they expect, don't they? She fell silent, mind racing. When she spoke, her tone softened, dripping with the charm she'd used to climb the corporate ladder. Mrs. Carter, I had no idea who you were. If I'd known, you'd have treated me differently, I cut in. So your behavior depended on my perceived status. Her face flushed. That's not what I meant. What did you mean? She straightened, trying a new tack. There was a misunderstanding. Family dynamics are complex. Sometimes people say things in the heat of the moment. So calling security to remove me from my grandson's birthday was a heated moment. I was stressed about the dinner. Everything had to be perfect, and my presence made it imperfect. I pulled up her employee file on my screen. Tell me, Lauren, do you remember Susan Lee? The shift in topic threw her. Who? Susan Lee, 61, accounting. You humiliated her in a budget meeting, suggested she step aside for someone who gets modern business. Her eyes darted, seeking an exit. That was a professional disagreement. You have to be direct in business. And Michael Harris, IT support. You forced him to work overtime on your personal projects while mocking his inability to keep up with younger minds. I have high standards. And Carla Gomez? You called her unprofessional for not instantly accommodating your last-minute schedule change. She was moved to the night shift because of ye. Lauren's composure cracked. I don't see what this has to do with anything. Those were legitimate workplace issues. I turned my screen toward her, displaying 3 age discrimination complaints filed against her in 18 months, all dismissed because her supervisor bought her high standards excuse. Were you maintaining high standards when you told Lucas the kitchen staff are there because they lack the skills or intelligence for better? Her face paled. You were in the kitchen? Every day this week, listening to you call hard-working people maintenance, watching you learn nothing but how to blame others. She shot up, her mask gone. This is entrapment. You can't spy on employees. I can observe my company's culture. I found an employee who targets older workers, who believes status defines worth, and who lacks the empathy for leadership. You're doing this because of the dinner, she accused. This is personal revenge. I stood, moving to the window overlooking the city. Do you know what I built this company on, Lauren? The belief that innovation comes from respecting every perspective, that wisdom takes many forms, and that value isn't tied to age or background. I faced her. You embody everything I've fought against. Her voice dropped to a whisper. So what happens now? Are you firing me? That's up to you. Hope flickered in Lauren's eyes. What does that mean? You have two options. Stay in the kitchen, learn what it's like to be treated as you've treated others. Maybe you'll gain some insight into how your actions impact people. Or resign today. I'll provide a neutral reference highlighting your marketing skills, without mentioning why you left. She stared at me, weighing her choices. Her next words revealed her true character. This is blackmail. You're using your power to push me out because I didn't know who you were. I'm offering you a chance to leave with dignity. Dignity? Her voice rose. You had me washing dishes for a week. You humiliated me. I gave you the same treatment you've given employees under you. The difference? They had no choice. You do. Lauren stormed toward the door, then spun back, her face contorted with rage. Ethan will hear about this. He'll see what kind of person his mother is. He'll hear the truth, that his wife has been bullying older employees and called security to remove his mother from his son's birthday. She froze, hand on the door. He'll also learn, I continued, that when given a chance to take responsibility and grow, she chose to blame others and play the victim. You're destroying my marriage. Your marriage isn't my responsibility, Lauren. Your character is. She stood, chest heaving. Then spoke coldly. I'll stay in the kitchen. I'll prove this is your petty revenge. Ethan will see through it eventually. I nodded. Fine. Report to the cafeteria Monday. Same time, same station. After she left, I sank into my chair, feeling the weight of my 68 years. I'd hoped the truth would spark self-reflection, a chance for growth. Instead, she chose defiance and denial, casting herself as the victim of a vindictive old woman, never admitting her cruelty caused her fall. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Can we have lunch today? Lauren has something to say. I stared at it before replying. I'm busy today. Maybe another time. I knew what Lauren wanted, to reveal my identity, to use our family tie to dodge consequences, to turn Ethan against me by playing the victim. But that conversation would happen on my terms. 3 weeks later, on a Tuesday evening, Ethan called, his voice heavy with realization. Mom, we need to talk, all three of us. I set down my teacup, noting his strain. About what? Lauren's job, what happened at Liam's birthday, everything. I heard muffled voices, Lauren coaching him, no doubt. She told me who you are. How do you feel about that? A long pause. Confused, angry. Why didn't you tell me you owned her company? You never asked what business I owned, Ethan. You assumed, like she did. That's not the point, Mom. You've been manipulating her job, punishing her for family issues. Is that what she said? That I've had her washing dishes for weeks as revenge? That's not the mother I know. Then maybe you don't know me as well as you think. Or your wife. What's that supposed to mean? We should talk in person. Tonight, my apartment, 8 o'clock. They arrived 15 minutes late. Lauren had clearly prepared, hair styled, makeup flawless, clothes chosen to project professional competence undercut by personal persecution. Ethan looked exhausted, torn between two women he was supposed to love but clearly didn't fully understand. I poured coffee in my modest living room, the same small apartment I'd called home for a decade. The contrast with their sprawling suburban house hung unspoken between us. Mom, Ethan began, sinking into my worn couch. Lauren's told me troubling things about what's happening at her work. I'm sure she has. I stood, hands clasped behind my back. What exactly did she say? Lauren leaned forward, her face a calculated mix of hurt and resolve. I told him you're using your position to humiliate me, transferring me to the worst job in the company to punish me for a family dispute. A family dispute? I echoed slowly. Is that what you're calling it, Mom? Ethan cut in. Whatever happened at Liam's birthday, using your company to settle personal scores isn't right. It's not you. You're right, it's not the mother you know, but it's exactly the CEO I've always been. I moved to the window, gazing at the city lights. Tell me, Ethan, what do you know about Lauren's performance at work? She's successful, ambitious, building a career. She's filed 3 complaints against older employees in 18 months, created a toxic environment for anyone over 50, and systematically bullied those she deems beneath her. Lauren's composure faltered. Those were legitimate professional issues. You told Lucas the kitchen staff lacked the skills or intelligence for better work. You called them maintenance. You said Carla Gomez probably never finished high school and implied Sophia might be undocumented. Ethan's face paled. Lauren, is that true? I was frustrated, she said. People say things under stress. Like when you're stressed about dinner parties? I asked softly. Like when you called security to remove the pobre mujer from your table. What does that mean? Ethan looked between us, confused. Poor little woman in Spanish, I explained. It's what your wife called me before having me escorted out of your son's birthday party. The silence was heavy. Ethan stared at Lauren, his expression mirroring the one he'd had at 7, learning Santa wasn't real. You called my mother a poor little woman? Lauren's eyes darted like a cornered animal's. Ethan, you have to understand. She showed up looking, I didn't know who she was. So that makes it okay? His voice rose, years of restraint cracking. It's fine to humiliate people if you think they're poor? To throw my mother out of our house if she doesn't meet your standards? Ethan, please, you're not getting it. I'm getting it perfectly. He stood, pacing my small living room. You threw my mother out because you were embarrassed by her appearance. You've been bullying older employees at work, and when Mom held you accountable, you came home claiming to be the victim. Lauren's mask shattered. Your mother's been lying to you, manipulating everything to make me look bad. How? Ethan's question cut like a knife. How is she lying? She pretended to be a cleaner, spied on me. Observing an employee with multiple complaints, I said. 3 in 18 months, all dismissed because her supervisor bought her high standards excuse. Ethan turned to Lauren, his illusions crumbling. So when you came home every night complaining about being targeted, you were actually facing consequences for your own actions. Ethan, you don't understand the corporate world. Sometimes you have to be tough. Tough? His voice broke. You called security on my mother, Lauren. You humiliated her in front of 20 people. You made our son watch his grandmother get thrown out of his birthday party. I was protecting our family's reputation. From what? From my mother? The woman who raised me, worked 3 jobs to get me through college, never missed a game or a parent-teacher meeting? His voice rose to a shout, years of buried frustration spilling out. You were protecting us from the most decent person I know. Lauren stood, face flushed with anger and desperation. She's not the saint you think. Look at this place. Look how she dresses. She's an embarrassment. Her words hung like a slap. Ethan stared at her. Then spoke with eerie calm. Get out. What? Get out of my mother's apartment. Now, before I say something I'll regret. Ethan, you can't be serious. I've never been more serious. He moved to the door, holding it open. Go home. Pack your things. We'll handle custody through lawyers. Lauren glared at me, her eyes wild with panic. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To ruin my marriage? I held her gaze. I wanted you to learn that actions have consequences, that cruelty to those you deem beneath you is unacceptable, that you could choose decency. Instead, you destroyed everything. No, you destroyed everything, she spat. The moment you decided my son was better off without his grandmother. The moment you chose cruelty over kindness. The moment you forced Ethan to choose between his wife and his conscience. She glanced between Ethan and me, searching for salvation. Finding none, she grabbed her purse and stormed to the door. This isn't over, she hissed. Yes, I said softly. It is. After she left, Ethan slumped into her chair, head in his hands. We sat in silence, the weight of years of mistakes settling between us. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispered, for everything. I know. How long did you know who she really was? I suspected from the start, hoped I was wrong, hoped love would soften her. He looked up, eyes red. What now? You rebuild. Be the father Liam needs. Remember who you are beneath the compromises. And Lauren? I thought of her options, resignation or continued humiliation in the kitchen. She'll find her own path. She always has. Ethan nodded slowly. Can you forgive me for letting her treat you that way? I sat beside him, taking his hand. You're my son. There's nothing to forgive. But I knew trust would take time to rebuild. Some wounds heal, others leave lasting scars. 6 months later, I sat in my office on a crisp fall morning, reviewing Horizon Innovations' quarterly reports, growth steady as ever. Sunlight streamed across my mahogany desk, where I'd made countless decisions. Diane knocked, entering with coffee and mail. "Mrs. Carter, there's a resignation letter from Food Services." I knew before opening it. Lauren's neat handwriting filled a page, a formal resignation, effective immediately, citing personal reasons and new opportunities. No remorse, no growth, just an exit to preserve her dignity. I signed the acceptance without pause. Some learn from consequences, others flee them. "Diane, process this today and send a memo to HR. Mandatory exit interviews for all supervisory roles, no exceptions." The past 6 months had brought more than one departure. I'd overhauled the reporting system to ensure bullying complaints reached me directly, mandated sensitivity training for managers, and promoted Carla Gomez to floor supervisor, her experience finally valued. Susan Lee returned to day shift with a commendation. Michael Harris now led an IT infrastructure upgrade, his expertise shining. The culture was shifting, slowly but surely. My phone rang. "Ethan, Mom free for lunch? Liam wants to show you something." Our relationship had mended gradually, like a fractured bone regaining strength. The divorce was quick. Lauren had moved to her parents in another state, choosing a fresh start over facing her truth. The usual place? "Actually, Liam wants a picnic in the park. He's been practicing something for you." An hour later, I spread a blanket under an oak while Liam raced around the playground, his laughter ringing out. Ethan looked lighter, the tension gone from his shoulders. "Mom, watch this," Liam called, hanging upside down from the monkey bars with a 5-year-old's fearless confidence. "Careful, sweetheart," I called, my heart swelling at being part of his world again. Ethan unpacked sandwiches. "He asks about you daily. When's Grandma coming? Can she teach me cookies? Tell me the princess story." "What do you say?" Grandma's busy building castles and slaying dragons." He grinned, the first real smile in years. "He thinks you're the most powerful person he knows." I laughed, watching Liam tackle the playground. Smart boy. Too smart. Last week, he asked why Mommy left. I didn't know what to say. The hardest part, protecting a child's innocence while being honest. "What did you tell him?" "That sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. And those mistakes mean living apart for a while." I said, "I don't know if she'll come back." "Was that wrong?" I squeezed his hand. "You gave him truth he could understand. That's all a parent can do." Liam ran over, breathless. "Grandma, see my castle in the sandbox?" He pulled me to an elaborate structure of sand and sticks, an architect's dream. Around us, families filled the park. Grandparents pushing swings, parents chasing toddlers, the joyful chaos of life. This was my fight, not for revenge, but for the right to be in my grandson's world, to exist unapologetically, valued for who I was, not dismissed for who I wasn't. As Ethan and Liam drove away, I stood in my modest apartment, gazing at the photos lining my walls. Liam at every age, Ethan graduating college, holidays before Lauren entered our lives. New pictures had joined them, recent ones of Liam and me baking cookies, building blanket forts, reading stories. A life reclaimed. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucas, the young kitchen worker who'd become an unexpected friend. "Mrs. Carter, Sophia's grandson, graduated high school today, first in his family. She wanted to thank you for the scholarship program." I smiled, replying, "Congrats to her. Hard work deserves recognition." The scholarship program, my latest initiative, funded education for children and grandchildren of longtime employees. People like Sophia, who'd spent 20 years keeping Horizon Innovations running, deserved to see their families thrive. Another text arrived, from Carla Gomez. "Night shift supervisor spot opened in Building B. Thinking of applying. Know anyone who could vouch for my work ethic?" I laughed. "Type in, I might know someone." As the sun set, I made a simple dinner and settled on my couch with a book. The apartment was quiet, not with the weight of loneliness, but the calm of peace. I thought of Lauren, wherever she was, and felt not satisfaction in her fall, but sadness for her wasted chances. She could have learned empathy in the kitchen, grown, rebuilt with Ethan on mutual respect. Instead, she chose victimhood, blaming others for her self-inflicted consequences. Some run from accountability, never seeing that freedom lies in owning their choices. My phone rang. "Ethan. Mom, Liam wanted me to say goodnight. He's worried you're lonely." In the background, Liam's voice piped up. "Tell Grandma dragons are scared of the dark, so keep the lights on." "Tell him I'll leave them on," I said, smiling. And Ethan, thank you. For what? For seeing the truth when it mattered. After hanging up, I left a kitchen light on, not for dragons, but because Liam cared. Being cared for was a privilege I'd nearly lost. In bed, I reflected on power, not corporate titles or social status, but the kind from knowing your worth and demanding respect. The kind that stands up for others, chooses dignity over ease, truth over comfort. Lauren thought power came from belittling others, climbing ladders, marrying into a family she deemed beneath her ambitions. She mistook cruelty for strength, manipulation for intelligence, but real power, the lasting kind, the kind that builds, lifts others up. It protects the vulnerable, values every person, regardless of age, accent, education, or job. I'd built Horizon Innovations on those principles 35 years ago, and I'd defend them as long as I lived. Tomorrow, I'd return to my office, reviewing scholarship applications, approving promotions, ensuring past mistakes couldn't repeat. Tonight, I slept deeply, at peace, having fought for what mattered and won, not through revenge, but through steady consequences and an unyielding belief in human decency. I'd reclaimed my place in my family and company, protected others from the treatment I'd endured, and shown Leon his grandmother was powerful, not for hurting others, but for helping them. That was power worth having, the kind that built legacies, created light, and let you rest knowing you'd done right. Now, I'm curious about you who followed my story. What would you do in my shoes? Have you faced something similar? Share below. And check out 2 other stories, channel favorites, that'll surprise you. Thanks for staying until the end.